I know it's going to be quality because it's Greg Daniels. So yes, I was very excited. What if I didn't? What if I said no, and that would be the headline? Oscar refuses to. What is he doing? He's doing puppetry in Venice Beach. I mean, it'd be very good puppetry, but it doesn't pay very well. Not again. I'm not agreeing to any of this. Greg Daniels and I meet for lunch back home, and in one of those times he mentioned it. He goes, I have an idea for something. It was not very thought, it's just this idea, would you be interested? I said, yeah, of course. And then subsequently, following meetings and lunches, it grew and grew and grew until finally he's like, come meet the writers. I'm like, what? And it happened.
They sent me the script and asked if I wanted a chat. I read the script, sort of opened it with some trepidation because you wonder what the hell is this going to be? Is it a remake, or what is it? What's happening? And when I saw it was its own thing, that it was like a totally new story, that there's no Michael Scott, like there's no trying to do the thing that they did before, and that it's about journalism and all the rest of it. I just really, really liked the script. So then I chatted with Greg and Michael, and it was just all of us sort of saying, it'd be good to do this, right? And we all said yes, and then that was it. It was a pretty quick call. And I really wanted to work with them. I mean, that's the answer. The script is really funny. I wanted to work with them. I've always loved sitcom and good comedy, and this felt like all of that.
I hadn't seen the original show when I was called for the audition. So my agents couldn't believe that. They said, you've never watched The Office? I said, sorry guys, I heard about it. I know it's a legendary show, cult show, and I never watched it. And so, because when they called me for the audition, I was entering in a flight from Cape Town to Italy, many hours. I watched the first episodes of my life in the plane. And I thought, of course I'm not going to make it. Of course. I mean, look at these geniuses. To me, it was really, really impossible that I could get this role. And then I felt, but I would love to, because this is such a weird project, very different from anything familiar. And then I had the audition on Zoom with Greg Daniels, Michael Common, all the producers, the casting director. So can you imagine the pressure? I had 11 pages to learn by heart, and English is not my first language. And so I started with the right lines, and then I forgot everything. And I felt like, what am I going to do? And I started to improvise, and they never give me the stop for 45 minutes. I kept going, and I didn't hear any reaction, so I said, oh my God, that's the worst thing in my life. And then suddenly, they all appeared on the screen, and they said, we had muted ourselves. That was so funny, you're incredible. And I felt like, wow, really, really? Yes. Can you do this again in 2 days with the real memory? So can you imagine? Had to learn everything by heart and doing the same audition in 2 days. And then for a month, I didn't hear from them. And then one day I got this call, and I still can't believe it. It's unreal, Here is one of my articles I'm particularly proud of. I'm scrolling, and I'm learning a lot.
Part of your brain knows what the other person doing is hilarious and responds as such. And when there's people like Tim, and you know what I mean? Like when there's just all the actors in it are super. When they're doing really funny stuff, part of your brain knows it's funny, but part of your brain, you're committed. You know what I mean? Like you're in there with them. And normally if they're being ridiculous in some way, my character finds that offensively annoying. And so weirdly, I found it okay to sort of stay in the lane of kind of like just being, what the hell are you talking about? Because I think that makes the whole thing funnier. Definitely times where it would roam off script, or they would say, all right, just keep going, or try throwing that in there and see what happens. The scripts were in really good shape. And the writers would also be there of each individual script. So they would come in and offer up alts or different ideas, and then you're free to roam as well. And oftentimes what you find is if you do go and do some mad improv, it's not that it'll end up in the show, but it'll cast, you will go back and do the lines again, it'll have different energy, if you know what I mean. So it kind of works in a couple of different ways.
If you say something and you think it's funny, it has to be, it's good if it's funny, but it has to make sense too. You just can't say something that wouldn't make sense out of the blue just because it's funny. It has to be within something your character would say.
How many of you have actually written for a paper before?
I wrote a paper in junior high.
Not quite the same thing.
I've tweeted.
You've tweeted?
I'm in a group text.
This is terrific.
We have a table read. Yes, we have a table read. When is it? I think on Tuesdays.
We had a huge table read, and every week you would have a table read for next week's episode where everybody sits around the table. There's a lot of people in that room, and it's a funny one because most of the time you're just reading the script for the first time out loud, which is scary. I kind of hadn't had that before. It takes the pressure off, but it also means there's this frantic, like, oh, I guess, no, he's angry here. You know what I mean? Like, there's that figuring out. So it keeps you on your toes, but it's a nice atmosphere, sort of collegiate. Everyone's in it together, and it's a nice thing.
And I never understood what the episode was about. I had no idea. Like, I was shaking like this under the table. I was so shaking. I think, can they see how much I'm shaking? Because I didn't understand. I needed a dictionary. I needed to read it by myself. So every Tuesday it was a nightmare to me. I never got what was going on in the episode. So when was Esmeralda coming, I was just playing like, saying things like, I hope this is the right way. And every time they were laughing so much. I thought, why are you laughing? What am I saying? I didn't know sometimes what I was talking about. But then some other times I was so inspired that already on the table reading, things would come up like this. So it's such a weird thing that happened. I don't know what I did. I don't know what we did. I didn't watch any episode yet. So I trust you that you liked it.
I hope it's not too disruptive to have me come in and sort of shake everything up.
Oh, no, don't be so self-defecating.
Interesting. First day on set. Everybody else had a day on set where they just went in and sat at their workstations and got filmed, sort of thing. And that was like half setting up the cameras and understanding the language. And then my first day on set, I think it might have been a big one. I think we had like a conference room scene, or we had the big scene at the end of it. I forget which it was, but I remember it being quite a pressurized day. Yeah, I just remember feeling pressure.
But the first day is a big day. Yeah, the first day is a big day.
Have you read this paper?
Uh-huh.
How do you think it compares to any other paper?
It sucks.
It's local news, but local news can be as important as the international news to the people who live there. It is as important as international news to the people who live there. So I think it lends it this thing that what they're doing matters, even when they're doing a terrible job, or the story is really unimportant, that week. I think it just lends it this extra thing of idealism and a belief in something bigger that I think gives a sort of a warmth to the whole thing, like a desire for the world to be a better place. I like that being in the background while they set about screwing things up, I like both being together.
It's funny, yes, but it's anchored in reality. It comes from a real place with Domhnall and his feelings about having a paper and all that, and it works because he's a young guy and he's still optimistic about life and virtue and things like that. And then Mare is there. She's a little cynical, but I guess he reminds her of how she was maybe a couple of years earlier. Then she believed in things and can do, and it's worthwhile fighting for what you're believing, etc., etc., etc. So that part I think is universal, and I think it bodes well for having a young audience. They like that kind of stuff. Yeah. They relate to that.
My name is Ned Sampson. I am your new editor-in-chief.
Yeah, he's not sort of a boob or anything like that. He's pretty straight down the line. I think like there's a Little Prince sort of element to him where he sort of expects the world to give him more than he is due. And I think leaning into that every now and again was fun. Leaning into the fact that he is sort of he's sort of reverted to teenagehood in some ways, the good and the bad of it, because everything that's happened in his life, he's gone back to doing this thing that he did in college for the first time since he was in college. Remembering what you were like in college, how hopeful, and you know what I mean, and how you'd fall in love, and then everything would go mad, and then, but you really believe in this, and that everything depends on everything all the time. I think tapping back into that was stuff that I brought in, but again, that sort of stuff is in the script, so yeah, I mean, most of it was there on the page.